before I leave, I just want to make two announcements. First of all, my wife, Justine Harris, is here with me, has been with me every step of the way. She is a civil rights activist. And you know what I find very interesting as we travel the state and the country? Very often, our leaders are traveling without their spouses and family. And we really need to look at how we fix that. But I also want to say to you before I leave tonight, I am a commissioner of the New Jersey Amistad Commission. New Jersey Amistad Commission was introduced by the uncle of Congressman Donald Payne Jr. That legislation was passed in 2002. It requires the teaching of the transatlantic slave trade and African American history infused into the curriculum of all of the schools in the state. I'm coming back to Passaic, and I'm going to ask the Board of Education, are all of the students in this system being taught the history of African Americans? Because if they are not, they are breaking the law. New Jersey is the only state in the United States of America that requires the teaching of African American history infused, not just Black History Month, not tearing up a copy of Ebony and Jet and putting it on the bulletin board once a year. It's the law, ladies and gentlemen, and if we don't insist on the law being enforced, people are going to violate the law. If we have to go to court. But here's the interesting thing that happened on Election Day and beyond. Reverend Soares was the Secretary of State. Lorna Hooks was the Secretary of State. Regina Thomas was the first Secretary of State. Ever since 2002, when Amistad was passed, we had African American who were Secretary of State. When Chris Christie got elected, he gave his lieutenant governor the title of Secretary of State. Tom Puryear, the president of the Oranges and Maplewood branch, and I went down to meet with the Secretary of State, and she says, I have no place in my department for this Amistad stuff, and was going to eliminate the program or diminish it. They made an agreement that they would put it over into the Department of Education. But what has happened through the appointment of Taisha Way, who's now Secretary of State, and Lamont Repola, the Commissioner of Education, we have two people at the cabinet level who are now responsible for chairing and co-chairing the Amistad Commission. So there's no reason in the world, and a governor that got 96% of our vote. So there's no reason in the world why that law should not be vigorously enforced. So I want everybody here to go back to the school system, wherever you are, and ask how is the implementation going for Amistad? But the more important question is, when the children come home, if they say that they're not teaching about African Americans in the schools, you need to pick up the phone, go talk to somebody, because it's required. Am I clear? If you have any questions, I am willing to come to your district, bring Assemblyman Payne to your district because he's willing to do it, and to bring Stephanie James Harris to your district to get on the Board of Education about teaching our kids. Because the truth of the matter is, African American history is American history. African American history is American history. We fought in every war that was ever had. We've been in everything that this country, 247 years of slavery. You do the arithmetic, 1869 to 1863. And I think that in the future we probably should celebrate Emancipation Day on January 1. And if there are Haitians in the room, we ought to get together with the Haitians, because that's also Independence Day for the Haitians. But we don't celebrate the Emancipation Proclamation, and sometimes we don't even do Juneteenth. If we don't do our own history, ladies and gentlemen, it's not likely to be taught the way it should be. And finally, I want to say to Passaic, we've got some serious issues. In Patterson, we got a mayor this year. Voting is going to make all the difference in the world. We need to get somebody from this town on the Board of Education. If you don't know anybody yet who wants to run, I see somebody in this room need to make the decision. Where is Mrs. Cotton? Miss Cotton, if you don't step up, you can't get elected, right? Okay? Terrence Loves deserves to have somebody else on that city council. But if you don't go, as Jeff Dye says, to the city council, to the Board of Education, and demand things in Passaic, it's not going to happen. And finally, the NAACP is a volunteer organization. It's not Burger King. You can't drive up to Jeff Dye, make an order for civil rights, and think he's going to hand it to you out of his heart, out of his wallet. There are some challenges with the NAACP in Passaic. Some of the officers have resigned. Did you hear me? Some of the officers have resigned. Jeff can't do it by himself. It's not the design of the NAACP to have the president to do everything. It can't be done, right, Kevin? President can't do everything. So y'all need to step up, give this man some help, because he is now on the state executive committee of the NAACP. And he's going to be in New York City on the 17th, I know. But he needs help. He needs some officers, but more importantly, he needs some folks to stand with him whenever he's speaking for civil rights in the city of Passaic. Thank you for allowing me to be the moderator of today's program. I thank you of all. When you go out tomorrow, you can tell people, I spoke to a black banker. I spoke to the congressman. I spoke to the leaders of the Baptist Convention, all at Martin Luther King School in Passaic, and we finished before 10 o'clock.